The Flash is a movie that's almost great. Ignoring the behind the scenes drama llama stuff, it has some actual emotion, and I really like Michael Keaton returning. But the film gets let down with weird choices, horrible CGI that makes the film look like it came out in 2003 rather than 2023, and deep faking. So, how would I do it different? Continuing on in my DCEU rewrite series, this is The Flash. Let's open the film actually with Barry's backstory about his mom and his dad was wrongfully claimed to do it, which led him to become a scientist and eventually the Flash. Then cutting to the present with Lex News special report talking about the opening of the new Flash Museum in Washington, D.C. But the reporters report about how the Flash is showing up a little late, and it cuts to Barry, and remember he's been recast in this. The scene goes by basically the same as the original, with the new cafe guy taking forever, and Barry getting called by Alfred. Superman's occupied. Barry noting why is Batman still awake at this point? I swear he's a vampire. So he just dashes into the bathroom and gets his Flash suit on. This Flash suit looks good on paper. I love the eye protection, but why is it CGI? Like, Tron Legacy was able to do a light suit a decade earlier. Why can't they make a practical one again? And also this finger thing he does with his running does look a little silly. But Flash gets recognized before he can leave, notably by one Wally West. He's like dressed like the Flash, but like in a really lame costume. And he wants to team up with the Flash. But Barry's like, get lost, kid, in like the nicest way you could think of. Barry starts running, but then the trickster catches his eye, so he has to stop and deal with him, walking into a bar. But then Wally catches up with him, and everyone's confused. And it turns out Wally loves the Flash so much he's able to recreate his powers. The first time he got real bad food poisoning, but the second time he was actually struck by lightning while doing it, and it worked. But then Barry just turns him over to the police and tells them to take him home, as the trickster laughs that he wasted so much time, and Flash is like, what? And he sees on the TV that the rogues were attacking the Flash Museum. He's like, ah, no! And he sees on the report Batman all frozen and Martian Manhunter getting torched. The Mirror Master and Captain Boomerang escape with a bunch of artifacts from the museum, which gets Barry really mad. He steals a couple donuts from the cops, and he starts running really fast and hard, and suddenly runs so fast and hard he starts time traveling. Instead of doing this weird world swirly thing, it's just like him running into a big blue galaxy with clips from the past. He travels back to just during the attack at the Flash Museum with the rogues, so he aids Batman. And what in the goddamn hell is he wearing in this? But calling back to my last DC video, due to his injuries, he's now wearing the Kingdom Come armor. So everyone fights, but Captain Boomerang gets away with an artifact. So John stays behind as Bruce and Barry chase after. It goes roughly the same, with a last-second save by Wonder Woman, and John grabs the things, and then everyone accidentally reveals some stuff about them with the lasso. Like how Captain Boomerang has childhood trauma, which is probably why he keeps using boomerangs, because they used to bring joy to him when he was younger, as well as he's really into a show about little ponies. Then the film continues normally. We meet Iris, we reestablish his dad, and how he's almost up to his trial. Barry tells Bruce about time travel, and he's kind of weirded out by it with butterfly effect. And Barry has a date with Iris, and she talks about how she has a cousin named Wally who's obsessed with the Flash. And finally, Barry decides to get on his treadmill, reference to the comics, and starts running. He runs, and he starts time traveling again. Instead of using like CGI recreations, just like use actual clips from the past DCEU. Barry moves the soup can, and then he suddenly wakes up at work. He's like, huh, what? And we see on the news that the Citizen Cold Museum is getting attacked by the rogues instead of the Flash Museum. Barry tries running again, but he falls down the stairs. And he sees his mom again. The time traveling worked. She asks him if he's alright, and he immediately hugs her and reminds him that he said they were going to have dinner together. And they have dinner as a big family again. And they see on the news that the oceans are rising because Orm is attacking the surface. And like the news is Powers News instead of Lex News. And Barry's like, well, yeah, just call the Justice League. They'll deal with it. And they're like, what's the Justice League? And Barry's like, oh, come on, you guys know, like, Batman? He's like, oh yeah, I know Batman, but what about Aquaman? And he's like, who? So he like does some calls, and turns out in this timeline, Arthur is just a fish. Aquaman was never born. He makes some other calls and looks up and he finds out that Diana never appeared in this universe. And he sees a poster on the wall for Back to the Future, but it's Eric Stoltz, and he's like, oh shit, I really messed up. And he travels to Gotham. It would probably take forever in real life, but movie, so whatever. He finds Wayne Manor kind of decrepit, and he makes it to the Batcave, which is a lot more basic and a little different looking. But he gets jumped by Batman, and turns out he's not Bruce. Now, again, I love Michael Keaton's Batman, and I thought it was really cool they brought him back. But, this is Flashpoint. Especially, they cast Jeffrey Dean as Thomas Wayne and did nothing with him. So he definitely deserves to be Batman Thomas Wayne in this. So yeah, in this timeline, Bruce was shot in the alley and his parents survived, with Thomas becoming Batman, kind of the Punisher-like. He beats up Barry and he doesn't believe him about the multiverse, and he says to trust him, they just need to give him his powers back. So they get some chemicals and tries to get him electrocuted again. First time, second time's the charm. The second time also has Thomas fall off the building, but Barry gets his powers back, so he zips down and saves him. And Thomas is like, alright, let me get this straight, and he tries to explain the multiverse of spaghetti, how there's a lot of different strands, and some of them do run parallel to each other, but sometimes when you change it, it will change for the worst. Barry's like, yeah, that's kind of the butterfly effect of it. Barry then recreates his suit with leftover stuff in the cave. They head out to go recruit some more people, one reference to the Joker, and they get jumped by Yo-Yo, who is the Harley of this universe. Thomas just yeets her off of a building, just as the Joker arrives, and it's Martha Wayne. But Thomas gets her to calm down for a second and explains the timelines and how in an alternate one, Bruce lived. Which gets her to snap back to reality for a second, and she asks Barry, what does Bruce become? And he says that he follows in his father's footsteps. Thomas saying in an alternate timeline their son actually lived. That means they have to die for that to happen. They have to change the timeline. And he wanted to ask the Joker, Martha, should he? But then suddenly Cyborg arrives with Yo-Yo in hand. He chastises Thomas for throwing her off the building, and we learn some stuff about how Cyborg is working with the government and he's the premier superhero of this time. But then he questions who the Flash is. He quickly goes over the timelines yet again and asks if they know anything about Kal-El. Turned out a pod landed in Metropolis and was hauled away as Project Superman. Cyborg could probably pull a couple strings and get him. And Joker's like, let's do this. If Brucey survives in one timeline, it has to happen. And they head to the secret base in Alaska, and Cyborg tries walking in and asking for it. But then Thomas just shoots a guard in the face, and then they all have to start fighting their way into the base. Eventually they come across the project, and it turns out Kal-El was born a woman in this timeline. They're also dangerously skinny from lack of sunlight. But she gets a little, and they fight their way out. Then President Derek Powers hears what's going on and okays Project Monarch. Because it also turns out in this timeline he obtained Fallout from My Suicide Squad rewrite, and he's still alive, so he places him in the Monarch suit. Everyone regroups at Wayne's Manor, and they come up with a plan to deal with Ocean Master. At that time, Citizen Frost also joins them, hearing about what's going on. Their plan is to basically get behind the lines and take out Orm. And just at that time, they start invading Gotham. So everyone makes their way through the Atlanteans, just as Monarch flies in like a nuclear-powered Iron Man. And Monarch is all like, all of you listen to me. This has gone long enough. Those who want to live, leave now. Orm challenges him. Monarch just lands and they fight a little. And Powers over intercom says, after you defeat Ocean Master, return to base, which sets him off.
I'm not going back in that fucking box!
No, you'll kill everyone!
And he detonates, taking out all of Gotham. Barry's like, oh. Starts running, and he time travels twice, but no matter what he does, they keep leading to the same outcome. And on the fourth try, he gets punched away by someone who looks a lot like him. And he's like, look at what you did. And they landed just a little while before the group even arrived. And Barry's like, who are you? And he takes off his mask, and he reveals that he's Reverse Flash. Wally West. Wally used to idolize heroes like Manchester Black and the Flash. He even experimented on himself to become the Flash. but it was all for nothing. He started experimenting with the Speed Force, eventually finding out that he can also time travel. It was me, Barry. I was the one who killed your mother. I wanted to push you to become a better hero than you ever would be. A person who does not just inspire others, but also actually cares about others. But your selfish actions doomed the timeline. Something as simple as moving a can of tomatoes, so your mother wanted to be left alone to be killed, has drastically altered the timeline. Even the echoes of your change has drastically altered things before the event. I never tried to kill you before, because I needed you to live long enough to reject me, and from that rejection to inspire me to kill your mother. But now because you changed everything, I can finally give you what you deserve. Wally being just so skilled with the Speed Force at this point just pummels Barry, but he wasn't fast enough to dodge being speared in the back by a trident from Joker and shot in the head by Batman.
You did this?
Yes.
Then you can still fix this.
Then Monarch explodes.
The only way to save the world is to keep this world from ever happening. Take this. Run!
Both Thomas and Martha start crying, but Martha says this is all for Bruce and the world. They kiss as they're engulfed by the explosion. Instead of doing these weird spiral planet things, which are unique but needless. I mean, come on, even Titans did this right by showing just some electricity, a galaxy, and clips from different products that Warner owns. So instead of doing something like this, Barry just runs by and sees a clip of Adam West Batman saying, "Some days you can't get rid of a bomb." Maybe like a clip from the 80s Swamp Thing movie, the 90s Flash show, Justice League cartoon. A similar scene to what they just happened in Gotham from Watchmen movie, talking about Dr. Manhattan. And then some original clips like a CG rendering of Just Imagine, Stan Lee, The Flash. Michael Keaton at the computer, and he actually sees Barry, and he's like, Terry, do you see this too? And we see Terry McGinnis. Then we see a new clip of Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Robin, and he's helping out Rookie, who has like archival sounds from Gordon in the Dark Knight films. Actual Luke Cage Superman, not just some CGI nonsense. And speaking of, instead of Christopher Reeve's deepfake, they could use Brandon Ruff, who is meant to be the same Superman, and he flies in. And then his universe is Supergirl. You just see that fly in from behind. You don't show her face. You see his Grant Gustin flash, just for them to accidentally bump into each other comedically. And it's sort of like that one scene from Crisis, but a little different because this Barry actually knows the name The Flash. They complement each other's outfits, and our Barry leaves. But then Grant Gustin realizes, wait a minute, what does this mean for the multiverse? And of course this ties into the CW and the multiverse we're going to be doing. But then our Barry realizes he has to do something, as he hears echoes of what Wally said about the timeline, and he knows he wants to do something better for Wally so he doesn't have to grow up the way he did. So he travels to in front of his mom's house on that fateful day and explains the situation. And she's completely understanding that she has to die to save more people. Very similar tone to the original film. Barry gets his goodbye. Barry gets to say his goodbyes. Nora lies about tomatoes and gets her husband to leave for some. This timeline, Nora kills herself. And Barry's racing. And a big white flash. And it's the beginning of the film. Barry just orders a simple muffin instead. Gets a chocolate bar from one of the fangirls. And asks Wally to join him on his fight. They zoom up to the Trickster. And it's like that one scene from the Justice League animated series. Trickster's off of his meds, but Barry convinces him to go back on them and turn himself in, because if he does, they'll play darts together. The soft kind, but still. The two race to DC and take the tires off of the Hummer, taking out Boomerang, and then taking out the Rogues before they even start the attack. And Wally thinks this is super cool. And some reporters get him on camera, and Flash is all like, well, I'm very appreciated that you guys wanted to make a museum for me, but I think personally this shouldn't just be for me. There should be a museum for every hero, anyone who would do anything to save reality. This should be a hall of justice. And later, it turns out at Barry's dad's trial, the security cam footage pays out, so he has official evidence, so that means he's scot-free. And later he's telling Bruce all this and how paradoxes and butterflies and yada yada. Bruce is like, yeah, that's neat, whatever. Until Barry gives him the note that Thomas gave him. And then we can make out at least, love always, your father and mother, Thomas and Martha Wayne. Which actually gets the Batman crying. And he simply says, thank you, Barry. Then, the credits play over, give me the sweet lowdown, which we can hear the motif throughout the film. The end credits is Barry and Arthur hanging out at the bar, and Arthur thanks him for taking him to see Back to the Future. He never seen it before. But the timeline hasn't fully fixed. Superman's still a woman. And Barry's like, wait, what? And Arthur's like, I'm just kidding. Last time I saw him, he's hairier than I am. But in twist, Adam walks in. And Barry's confused who she is. And Arthur's like, well, come on. Your brain's still stuck in the past timeline. She's been here for 2 weeks, dude. Come on, she was the one who made your ring. And he's like, my ring? And she's like, oh, you've already lost it. A second time, but if you make me do a third time, you have to pay for it. And she's eating some carrots, which are purple now. And Barry's confused, but not as confused as when he sees a commercial for the International House of Burgers rather than pancakes. And he starts freaking out that, oh no, the timeline. And that's how I would do The Flash. But what do you guys think? You like how it turned out? How would you rewrite it any different? Let me know in the comments below. And when you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe.